What's up, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike. We are a week into the regular season across the major regions. And you know what? We've got some trouble. I smell some smoke, and we're not talking about just smokers. Everything is on fire right now for the teams that went to first stand. Embarrassing losses across the world, except for BLG. That's where we start today. It's everything's on fire. All right. It is troublesome times for G2, Gen.G, BNK FX, and LYON Gaming, as they all took some L's this week. None more than BNK FX, who go 0-2. Not only do they lose a tough matchup between teams that went to first stand against Gen.G, but they also lost to my bros, which should count as like 3 losses and 3 wins for the bros, because they are generally not that good.
For BFX, bro. That's just disqualification, LBL style, bro.
It's tough. Where do you want to start here, Yamato, when it comes to contextualizing all of these losses that happened to the teams that went overseas?
I think we could just go one by one, right? I like to hit BFX. It was a good start, because I think that's the one that you can rationalize the most, right? I think BFX is definitely the type of team that opportunistically, jumped ahead of the underperforming teams in the LCK in winter. And at the same time, I think they were ahead of the curve in terms of recognizing the hypercarry bot lane meta. And I think that just fit perfectly with who, of course, Kellen and Diable are as players. I think in terms of playing through bot lane, playing heavy for lane, Karma or Seraphine or the Yunara Lulu, I think this is something that they did very well. And they also did it into drafts where the enemy team didn't know what to answer. I remember that Jin Rakan into Ash Seraphine. Like, I remember those cocktail drafts. I think in terms of the priorities, they set them straight and they set them fast. But then with the shift, we saw at first stand where everything kind of returned to playing heavily around mid lane with jungle and support. The truth is, I think Raptor and Kennen can play good together, but the issue is your mid laner is Vikla. And I don't care if you solo killed Faker on a one-off because you flex Rise into top, or you solo killed Chovy in a game that you eventually lost anyway because you were 80 CS behind. That's just noise, That is someone playing the cowbell in an orchestra of 50, like, who cares? Like, he's standing in the corner, he's just cosmetically there banging on a thing, and that's Vikla. Fine when he plays Annie, Galio, whatever the hell, but the truth is, now you're back into the LCK and all the mid laners are devious, and the truth of who you are as a player becomes more revealed. Fair play to the guy. He played better this split, like with the previous split, than he did in the past, but that bar was very low. And I think now when ADC has to take a different side role, and Kellen needs to kind of connect with his jungle to pressure through mid, the other teams are going to have a better time. And it doesn't help as well that Clear is not performing well. Is as a perfect just ate his soul. I don't know what kind of voodoo Perfect's been doing to play the way he did, but Clear needs some of that. Clear definitely needs some of that. What do you guys think about BFX?
For me, Jamada, because I'll have less behind it, I more pose a question because Yamato touched on it a bit. Do you think a team that has very clear strengths and weaknesses within their players, and your strength is in the bottom lane, do you think a team like that should just continue to play through the bottom lane because they have shifted their draft priority away from Diable? And my man looks like he's in jail, but it's not because of the play. I think it's the strategy. Like, do you just opt into a worse strategy, a less meta strategy? There we go. Because that would probably be a better chance for you to win.
I mean, you play the cards that you have, right? You play with the cards you have always. And I think at the end of the day, historically, we've seen teams who have struggled in certain metas at the very top end completely redefine metas, right? Sometimes in the middle of tournaments, a la T123, that's the one that people, more recent will always remember. Whether it's, the more creative teams, out there teams like your 2018, 2019, SG2, where they're the only team in the world doing all of these, not only team in the world, but they were stretching the boundaries on what was allowed to be played in what role, far more than any other team, right? And so I think if you're BFX, if your clear strengths are just obviously your bot lane, peace and love to Vikla. This guy, he will go through these phases where he's very serviceable, but then we get NA Vikla, right? And we saw it a lot at first stand where there was these individual games where Vikla is just dropping dookie game, in between, again, these very serviceable games. And in the LCK, we're not short for good mid laners here, man. So I think the second that these guys across the board start returning to form again, right? So I feel like last split it was pretty much Faker, Chovy. The rest of the field was kind of playing a little bit lower than what you would expect them to play at. General blanket statement. Sure, there are people slightly above expectations here and there, but generally speaking, you take a surface look
BDD.
at the games.
Sorry, BDD. Got to throw his name in there as well.
Exactly. That's what's going on in the LCK. The second these guys are playing back to their expectations, bro, Vikla is in jail every single laning phase against every single mid in the LCK, pretty much. So if that's the situation, play through bot. Give Diable these hyper carries. Give Kellen these, these middlemen between playmakers, but also enchanters, because that's just kind of where we're heading in the meta. And just send Raptor down to bot lane 24/7. If you even if you need to overload mid, say overload mid, it's you're putting multiple members in, but if you even need to just send Raptor mid to clear a wave to drag Vikla bot, I don't care. Do it. Just the most rudimentary, dogmatic approach that you need to League of Legends. Go ahead and just do that. I always will lean into being if you have a team that has very clear strengths, play into them, right? Do what you can to shore up those weaknesses, 100%. But if that's the team dynamic that you've got, and the meta shifts in a way where that's not favorable, and you try and play the way that other teams in your league are playing, and you're just worse, you've got to get creative. And I think that always means going back to what you're actually good at. And it's hard in Fearless, but that's where we're at in the game.
Last thought here, Yamato, on BNK.
No, honestly, I think I think the region is going to be tough. Either way, actually, I have some things to figure out, but I think that BFX, in terms of where they're at, I think the biggest hope is that maybe Vikla adopts a more Faker-esque style, in the sense that, in terms of how Faker approaches the games, I don't see a mid laner roaming as much as he does, dropping 6 minions as much as he does to break side lanes. But you need to make sure that your top lane actually performs. That's what T1s is also hurting them right now, is that top lane is not performing. It only works if your top lane is performing, and maybe that's a way for them to find some resurgence. But it all depends on the teams around them, because the other teams are just giga stacked. Even a team like D+, in terms of individual ceilings, they can definitely catch up and potentially reach higher. The race is always the top lane versus top lane, because now Perfect, Shiwu, and Clear, they're kind of racing to be the new established top name out of these guys. And right now, of this week, it seems like Perfect is number one. So
yeah, I know. That's a good shout out of the matchup. When those two teams play, D+ and BNK FX, it's always an entertaining game. But I think that'll be a pretty clear tell for BNK FX. It's, hey, the weakest part of D+ Kia is career. We need to play through bot lane and break it open. Smash is great, but career is holding that team back. It is very obvious to anyone watching. So let's just play through bot lane, despite the fact that the meta shifted away. When they make that decision, I think then it's okay, I'll come back to trusting this team from a strategic standpoint. Now, the other team that went from the LCK also suffered a loss. Gen.G's here. They did look back to Gen.G against BNK FX, but they did open the season with the loss, which they haven't done in about 4 years. They haven't lost in the regular season in a very long time. So it just felt weird when they dropped their series against KT. So I guess framing it this way, is it more KT won, Gen.G lost? Gen.G, what do you feel about the Gen.G match here, Jamada?
I mean, I feel like we got a bit of a sprinkling of everything, right? I feel as though Gen.G kind of allowed KT to play the game in game one the way that they wanted, in kind of very slow, controlled manner. They're playing versus Aurora, they're playing versus Nocturne, and it never really felt like Gen.G found fights that yielded the what do you call it, the actual objectives post, right? Beyond that, though, I feel like Gen.G are probably fine. All right. Like this KT series, it sucks more because of where we're at, or I say where we're at, of the record, I suppose, being broken. Like finding out, or not finding out, but coming to that series and dropping how many series in a row? It's something ridiculous. We spoke about it not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
Calendar time, 9+ months worth of no series drop. It's just crazy. But I feel simply because straight off of the back of the KT series, we ended up just getting 2-0, like just belt ass into BFX. A lot less to really be stressed out about. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Gen.G. I feel as though we got a little bit of everything in that series. We even got like the Varus flex in the top lane in the game too, which was kind of, I suppose, in a way surprising for Keen. And then normally he's kind of a role player, right? And you don't need to see him on these kind of out there picks, though we know he's capable of it. But the fact that we got a Varus top out of Keen was also quite interesting. So I feel Gen.G showed, okay, they can bleed, cool. Like it's possible domestically for them to bleed, but they're back to being capable for being creative, even if they're losing the series.
Yamato, are you worried about Gen.G?
I think it depends on how you contextualize it, right? Like I do think looking at how the LCK, like we haven't had a situation in a long time where Gen.G wasn't a super clear favorite. I think they probably should still be. But I'm looking at T1 and KT now as well. Like this is a chance to win the LCK. Obviously, it's a 9-week regular split, and a lot of things can change. But it's very obvious that Gen.G, in terms of how they've played, in terms of how good their solo lanes have carried their early game and also their mid game, to allow Duro and Canyon to play a very loose game, to kind of let them kind of do whatever the hell they want in the game. That's something that is a thing of the past, because you can see that Duro is in a lot of places, like in a lot of cases, out of place. He's very late to mid lane situations, and this is just a team that has to catch up on a lot of these details. And when you look at the team like KT, they have had their form of play style with this roster and also the previous one, where the jungle and support just connects around mid lane and fights around mid lane. In this game, there was never a clean 3v3 from Gen.G's side. They could just never match. And when you have players that are capable of laning against Keen and Chovy, I do think that Gen.G will be exposed. But even now, in Gen.G's weakness, I would say that there's not a lot of teams that can do that. I didn't think KT could do that. I thought BV could do it against Chovy, but I didn't think Perfect is going to be like, yo, what's up? And then he just said, yo, what's up? and he slammed it. You know, he had some of the best games in his career by far, and this is a player that's went to the world finals. But when he was at the world championship and KT was doing good, it was with Perfect playing like Kesante, Rek'Sai, being a form of stability in counter matchups, and just pushing and just being there for the objective. This was a very different look for Perfect with the Jace and the Vayne, so it's good to see. But the moment you have two solo lanes that can match Gen.G solo lanes, and your team play is better with jungle and support, you'll be able to win. And not a lot of teams can say that they are. So for that reason, I do think Gen.G is going to be safe, but as I mentioned before, I'm looking at T1, I'm looking at KT, especially now. Even HLE, like they are so messy and so far behind, so maybe not. It's just based on roster strength. This is a chance to actually win and overcome. Like next week is going to be super exciting in the matchups, and if it continues or not, that's going to be the telling tale. But it's always hard because the regular season is 9 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you brought up a little bit about Perfect and his run there. We'll dive deeper into KT later in this episode, but Gen.G kind of getting the pass here. We'll see what happens next week with them. Let's move on over to Europe in LEC. Several big headlines, I would say, in LEC in their second week of play, but one of the biggest, after we put a fork into Fnatic and thinking that they're done, they're not connecting, they're terrible. Who's going to be the guy that carries for him? They show up and just punched G2 in the mouth in games 2 and 3 with leads that G2 were unable to come back from after just a bunch of skirmishes. It was skirmish after skirmish after skirmish. And next thing you know, it's 13-2, 14-2 in terms of kill score against G2. And then the same similar thing happened in game 3. And I think we were like celebrating a dragon steal by Hansama to keep it at a 7,000 gold deficit. It was very surprising to see kind of G2 function that way and to have that form of Fnatic there. I want to talk about both here, but let's start with G2 since we are talking about our first stand squads with the losses. Yamato, what did you think here? Because there are many different angles to take from it, both successes and failures.
I think I was surprised with how obviously they are trying things. G2, they were playing Ambessa, which is not common. The Renekton has also been like a pain point, but saying these things, it usually would have never mattered against Fnatic at any point during this year. Fnatic was at their absolute lowest, in my opinion, in a long time. After the 2 losses that they accrued, they got completely stomped by MKOI. I didn't expect them to offer anything in the matchup. But it does seem like G2 is kind of suffering from... I don't know how to coin a phrase, but it's kind of like a fatigue of playing too good. Because what happens sometimes, in my opinion, because you can see that they're kind of missing beats, is that when you play at a very high level, you come to expect certain things from your teammates at certain timers, and you're going to really, really stretch the margins of error because you want to, of course, gain more and more out of every opportunity. And now I look at some of the timings they choose, some of the teamfight angles they choose. You can see that they aren't as sharp as they need to be able to play as good as they think they can, and we know they can. And I think it's a mixture of all of those things. So they're kind of overreaching in moments, giving opportunities in moments, and then kind of scrambling to fight back and recognizing that these drafts that they did during first stand are very front-loaded in terms of power. At first stand, they drafted heavy around the early game, and they were very good at closing out games from those positions. But here against Fnatic were the ones to win the 1-2 punches in the early game. They found gank angles. Like if you're playing Caitlyn Bard and you lose your flash at minute 4 and then you get Pantheon ulted, those are things that you need to really, really be secure against, and you need to have confidence in you being able to kind of convert that. I think that on Fnatic's side, I do think that Vladi had the best series we've seen all year. I think that Razork was very consistent. We've seen him get leads, but we have also seen him throw away those same leads, and he managed to hold on. And I do think that Upset looked good, which is, of course, a massive plus. But looking at it from G2's position and the context of everything being on fire, I feel like G2 has earned themselves enough credit that, this coaching staff and this team has so much... let's say just winning DNA, especially when it comes to Europe, that this is the type of team that if they approach a matchup in a sense that they think that they really need to win it, let's say now they're playing against Vitality, that's a big marquee matchup, and they can definitely approach that with intensity. Like if they are going to prepare this week with the intention of being their best selves to beat Vitality in this moment, I think that they really, really can. But then the question is, what kind of approach are they taking to this regular season? We have a single round robin best of 3. They have some leeway, and I do think that their ambition is greater than the LEC. But considering the state of Vitality, the state of even a team like KC, and there's only being 2 MSI spots, and them going to 5 games with KC the last time they played against each other in the finals, I do think that there is some risk with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go hard in the paint to try to beat Vitality. In a week's prep, we're going to come into a matchup. You're going to see Kisanta and Sion on top lane, and they're going to nullify, the action around mid lane and just suffocate Humanoid. Like I can see that easily happening, but it's just a question of Dylan, Falco, Rodrigo. What are they saying next to the whiteboard? What are they pointing to? Because I think the decision lies in their hands, and that's a powerful position to be in. So I give them a lot of credit.
I like the winning DNA, I guess, statement. It just felt like 1-4 Caitlyn kind of not stopping the bleeding, and then the 0-4 Renekton not stopping the bleeding games 2 and 3 respectively. Didn't feel very winning DNA like there just wasn't discipline there from the guys that were kind of struggling. Jamada, what did you make of this loss here? Again, given the fact that Fnatic was kind of in the lowest position they've been in a long time.
I mean, I think in a vacuum it is quite inexcusable just because it's Fnatic, right? Yeah. Whether you want to take the historical angle, whether you want to take the more recent angle of just simply how poor Fnatic, look, man, like this Fnatic team, there's no need to pull punches. They're shit. Like they have been shit up until this G2 series. They have not looked good. It is very hard to talk about any real positive aspect of this team besides upset, and that man is in jail. So
a lot of people in jail today, bro.
Like maybe really more in
abolish for-profit prisons. Come on, no.
But I think for this series,
yes,
just
King.
The fact, yes, King, yes. No, I'm
sorry,
just it's good, bro. I just think the fact that normally I would expect the G2 to have the discipline and the backbone and just the presence of mind to go, oh shit, you know what, guys? This is the third skirmish we've lost in a row. The gold lead is probably not even that big, but we need to just kind of relax, take a breath, reassess our approach on the next play, and just go from there. And it felt like Fnatic just had them in a chokehold. Even like beyond that, like the G2 just played into pretty much everything after game 1. So I don't know. It's so bizarre, especially because the first game, it looked like we were just gonna get a business as usual series, right? Like G2 Fnatic, we do the they always crack the jokes on the broadcast, right? Dynasty Legacy Kings, into G2 Stomp, and it didn't turn out that way. I don't know. I feel like Yamato was alluding to, at the end of the day, G2 they've built up enough goodwill credit, right? They have enough good faith that, as much as I hate that it kind of sullies analysis around these kind of upsets, for G2, it sort of doesn't matter. Like this is the annoying thing. It's almost, I don't want to say it's at the level of the T1 like whole rest of year versus T1 versus Worlds, but there is a comparison to a degree as a European fan to make there, where it's like, okay, G2 are kind of allowed to lose these one-off series here because in playoffs they're going to switch it on. That's just what they have done historically. But again, just because of the flaw that Emperors has been playing at, Jojo put it all up in Vladdy. That whole series. Well, I say that whole series. There wasn't a lot of series to talk about, but he still put it up in him. Right? Came in and held his own against Caps. Like, it's Vladdy of when he first came into the league. And we were talking about Vladdy as maybe being one of the next prospects inside of Europe. So yeah, I don't know. A very disappointing series in that vacuum, right? But again, at the end of the day, they've built up enough goodwill, I think, for a lot of us, both here, I think, on the show clearly, and just among the community, that this is kind of a whatever loss in the grand scheme of things. And if anything, considering Fnatic were coming into that series 0-2, that's a big win. That's a huge win to get under your belt. For G2, we'll see if it bites them in the backside, but they came in at 7th seed in winter, and we saw how far that got them. So again, it's more about making sure the landing is good, more so than the beginning sometimes.
That's frustrating. This whole thing, of like G2 getting the pass is frustrating, but they've proven it over time, especially with this core of guys and including this roster. But it just felt like this was a, hey, should have taken care of business. You didn't, slap on the wrist, and that's all that we're going to give until more alarm bells go off. A very similar situation with Gen.G, right? Losing to a KT squad that, maybe they shouldn't lose to, but they have a lot of talent there, and then they take care of business later. G2 did it opposite way, right? They took care of business earlier in the week, or earlier last week, and then drop a game to a team that maybe they shouldn't lose to. Speaking of that, one more squad that also dropped a series that they should have won, could have won, It was Cloud9 taking down LYON in the LCS in their opening weekend. Is it a shock, surprise, especially given the fact that Cloud9 have publicly talked about how LYON just have been better than them in scrims. They've been owning them in scrims, and then they get the 2-1 reverse sweep victory here against LYON. We'll start with you, Jamada.
It's been a long time since I've seen two teams lose in a series. It's been a long time since I've seen. Bro, it has like I was left speechless after this series, just simply because for LYON, again, the context you brought is really important, right? C9 have been very open about how they've been struggling, in scrims and also against LYON, and we've even seen that kind of reflected. You see kind of the narrative around C9 all of a sudden, off the back of winter. I think most of us were still mostly confident that they would be a top 2 team still. Then America's Cup happened. And then, here we are now. But I think for LYON, just the fact that, that game 1, they put C9 through the floor, right? But it's less about the fact that they put them through the floor and more about that it took them 34 minutes to get that result in that game state. In my mind, I don't know. I feel like that's a game as a top team, even against a team like C9, air quotes, a team like C9, you should be closing this out sooner, in my mind. I think this should be a game that you're closing out when you've got go buttons quicker. So then we get to game 2, and this one was the close one, I think, off memory, where LYON actually have a lead through Inspired, and I don't know, Dokla kind of lost his head a little bit, and we didn't really see any situation where LYON rocked up to an objective and forced C9 to come into them. A lot of objectives you're seeing C9 actually get positioning somehow. Now I say somehow, they've got Corki, they've got Ziggs, like there are ways to force Prio when you've got that kind of wave clear, but the fact that LYON have the lead and the emphasis, or the agency in Engage, they have effectively 4 Engage champs out of 5, and they couldn't find their way on top of carries. Nautilus, Ari, Jarvan, Cannon. We didn't see one single big Cannon ornament in like a 30-something minute game, and there's practically no disengage. The fact that C9 are allowed to get a Ziggs game where APA high-key griefed Blabber, if you think about the level 2, the way that the level 2 played out, he didn't have to let Jarvan EQ onto him. He could have just walked away from this gank. Blabber could arguably contest for red if I recall the entire setup 1-to-1. I think I'd have to look at the replay to get full confirmation on that. But obviously the map was in this weird split state because Blabber was forced off. And off that early game alone, I don't know, like the LYON that I had come to see from domestic play in NA, I would expect LYON to just roll with that lead and just close the game out. They did it against C9 with the Nocturne Ari, not the Nocturne Ari, the Nocturne Annie and the Aatrox Ari matchup not too long ago. Obviously different mid lane jungle, but at the end of the day, similar game state with an arguably more lopsided 2v2. So yeah, I just think the fact that the games looked that messy, like game 1 and 2, and then game 3, I don't know. Fair play C9, I guess. Like it was just tit for tat the entire game. They mechanically outplayed them. Blabber had his moments. Thanos was very clearly going to be the X factor in that game. Like the Gwen pick has to break the game there, in my opinion, because otherwise I feel like the draft is just very, very, I don't want to say dysfunctional, but I think it's hard to get it to work together. Whereas the coherence of the LYON composition makes way more sense in terms of how those fights can play out. So the fact that they were able to kind of outhands with Vulcan on Bard, with Ezreal, with a Poppy where there's just about the right amount of usefulness for the steadfast presence. Fair play to C9, but again, LYON had opportunities and ways to win that game. They should be able to space out C9 a little bit better. The way that C9 get to play the game here is almost entirely through enabling the Gwen, and they put the Gwen initially behind, but eventually the Gwen started to pick up gold and towers across the map, so it just became unplayable. I feel like LYON lost their head more than we've seen them, since that playoff run. It felt like their prep wasn't as sharp as it had been previously. And that's the big disappointment for me, is that I didn't really feel like LYON had anything special prepped and planned for C9 in this best of 3.
Well, I guess 2 points here. One is you didn't like the way that they slowly closed out the game in game 1, but then in game 2 they are kind of forced into all these scraps in a messy game. Like, I will take them playing slow and controlled, because that is, we know what it is. It's fucking inspired, yelling at everyone, just wait, we don't need to fight, be patient. Because we got to hear during First Stand how much he's controlling that team, and discipline seemed to be the word for LYON when they're winning. And when they're losing, it feels like they're getting into these scraps, which we know they can win, but we also have seen they can lose. And that is why I think game 2 got out of control. And then in game 3, as much as, you know, we could talk about the Gwen getting out of control later on. To me, I'm just surprised that Berserker and Isles weren't able to punish with Ashe Seraphine as much as we're used to seeing teams punish when they pick Ashe Seraphine. Like, if you use draft resources there, you need to get that bot lane going. And I think a couple of early kills helped Sven and Vulcan survive.
Small side note on the LYON bot lane. I will say this. Owls was playing for his contract in game 1.
Yeah, it was.
His Nico in game 1.
It's also very important now because Berserker.
Exactly, and that's exactly where I was going. The fact that Berserker has his green card now, and all of a sudden there's an extra import slot that's opened up, that's a very, 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 very big deal. Because, like, look, Idols looks lost. If Inspired isn't microing him, he's not really a real support player. He doesn't seem to have that intuition to know where he needs to be with this team, unless Inspired is kind of reaching over Saint and basically verbally right-clicking his champion to where he needs to be. So,
Jamada, I have a question for you, bro.
Yeah.
Just, which LEC teams would beat LYON right now?
A lot of the top half.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the top half right now.
Can we just name them? How many of the LEC teams?
What do you think?
I mean, are you asking Yamato, or do you want me to go first?
What
you go first.
Yamao's asking me. I'll go first.
I just want to remind the world of a bet we did.
I know. I remember the bet. No. I remember the bet. No, I remember the bet. Look, things can change. Plans may
One
shift
loss against
even.
C9 and you are all the way to top half of the LEC is going to beat them with me? Welcome, bro. Welcome.
Look. I think when LYON is in this... You're going to hate this analogy, but I don't care. When they're performing in a way where they are like G2, coming into each series very well prepped and with a very strong read on their opponent, I think LYON is... And this is like, you can say it about any team, but specifically LYON because of what they demonstrated to us in playoffs, right? The versatility to go from certain strength to picking apart a certain weakness on the enemy team, I think is something that we have not seen from many teams, honestly, across the world, if you want to like super stretch it, but especially in NA. Like, teams are very, very, very robotic in NA. That said, I've always held the stance from last year, and I've said this, whilst I have had a lot of faith in the top 2 of NA, I think, generically speaking, like the top 4 or 5 of EU is still a stronger pool of teams collectively. I have been on that since last year. I've always said,
who are the top 2 in NA then?
Well, right now it should be C9 and LYON. There's we'll have to see where what do you call it? Where TL stick the landing. All right.
I love this, Yamato. Yamato, this was a great angle. He's like,
I'm good. But you want to know the teams in the top half for me, for LEC, G2, Vitality. Honestly, these guys are freaks. These guys are freaks. After that, I think if it's like Good Day KC, it's fine. Though I would be worried about them in a best of 5, to be honest with you. And I'm assuming this is a best of 5, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Koi would be close. I think Koi would be close.
All it took was one series against C9.
I know, man.
Look,
and one Lord bet.
look, again, I'm not changing my narrative holistically here, but I felt like in the microcosm of first stand, LYON could go a bit further potentially. That's all. Like,
okay.
I thought it was possible. I thought it was possible.
This is not how you speak to a Lord.
Oh, yeah. my apologies, Your Highness. I lost my head for a moment there.
He was about to take it too.
It's all good. Right. It's all good. Tap me in on the C9 angle, bro. Tap me in.
You're in.
I'm not gonna put your feet to the fire more, bro. I'm sorry.
That was awesome.
No, that was good.
I need to enjoy the bet in some way, you know. Like
no, of course.
I need to lay up and dunk myself, you know. Well, the C9 angle inspired. My man did nasty things, like the fact that he lost that Javan game. I could just hear it. I don't know why we didn't get inspired comms. What
you know why we didn't get inspired comms?
You know what? Just as a bit of a side note, do we think that they actually took the feedback and are just going to do less comms? This is a bit of an out there thing, especially on Power Side, but I feel like they're not going to give us more, like that many more looks at like inspired comms now. I feel like they've exhausted it very, very quickly.
I don't know, bro. I think it makes inspired look like it plays into the whole.
That's what I feel too, and that's what I think that they feel.
I think it's a good thing. Like everyone who doesn't like him already don't like him. It's like he's mean, you know. Like those guys can't be convinced, you know. So I hope they lean into it more, you know. I hope so at least. Unless like Inspired said himself, he's like, guys, what are you doing?
I don't want to be heard on the broadcast anymore, please. Sorry.
Either way, like what he did in that Javan game, like the fact that he didn't win is crazy. I think, we are witnessing Blabber's evolution. He has realized that he's old. You know how the Greeks...
Okay.
Let me cook.
Let him land.
You know the Greeks?
He's cooking.
The Greeks, they have this concept of life in the sense that early on you're a student and then you go into the army, you fight, you come home, you study, you become a professor, you teach, then you join politics, and then in the end you become a philosopher, and then you die in peace, right? There's this cycle to life. And the same thing is true for junglers. They come into the league, they play Lee Sin, they kick everyone in the head. They don't know what the fuck they're doing on the map, but mechanically, damn, look at that smite steal. And then they become more mature. They begin to, play a structured game. They play with their teammates. And then comes a time where they become philosophers and they play Sejuani and Poppy. and most junglers in the West, they've gone through this transformation. I think of Jankos, I think of X-Smithy and his fucking Sejuanials that are flying. And maybe Dom has figured out how to fix Blabber. Just pick Sejuani. Just play Poppy. And you fucking up early game doesn't matter as much because your job is very simple. Get your homies ahead, be there on time, and you being 20 CS down on a map split, being level 3 against 6, who cares? You can't fucking solve the level 1 Blabber, you can't put some wards down, you can't lose your mind in a jungle matchup where you need to be ahead. Well, let's play matchups where your conditions just don't fucking matter. And honestly, the 2 ganks he did on top lane, where Thanatos just carried the whole game on Renekton after the fact, even in that tough Sejuani game, blessings to him. And the Poppy game was one of the best Blabber games I've seen in quite some time. So maybe Dom has really tapped into a solution, because Dom is doing some Tabe moves, man. He has a very big issue here that his players are just not mechanically good enough. And I think that's where LYON lies, right? It's like mechanically, I think that both Saint and, of course, Berserker are so far ahead on their peaks in comparison to their counterparts in C9. So in the long run, I do see them winning. But the fact that Thanatos played as good as he did could be like a negative sign, because Dokla, he did good in playoffs. He did the whole Varos shenanigans, Vayne shenanigans. He played even Aurelian 1 games, fair play to him. But if Dokla is not going to perform, like we talk about Isles getting, having a good Nico game, like, bro, like Mr. Dokla could be on the choppy block too. Maybe we import somebody into that spot. Why not? It's like, why else did we announce? Like, why else would he change his residency in the middle of the year, bro? Like, there's no other reason we change the residency in the middle of the year. We are considering options here. So LYON, I think they're on fire, but I do agree with Jamal's angle that this is a team that, when they're preparing in BO5s against specific someone, they're going to be dangerous. And on top of that, it's like, I look at Team Liquid, I look at FlyQuest, like these guys,
I think the rest of the field has too much to work on, man.
Yeah, they are not doing shit, bro. Like when I see Code JJ and Yeon die 2v2 and give enemy Koki 4,000 gold lead at minute 10, I think this is the seventh circle of hell in the Team Liquid office, At least they won the race to world first in World of Warcraft, so fair play to them.
Wow. I can't believe you're using that as like the consolation prize.
Good job.
Good
By
job,
the way,
wow.
Yamato, you are looking for the sixth circle because that's heresy, man.
I think...
What heresy is seventh circle?
Heresy is sixth, violence is seventh.
Okay. I just picked a random circle, but damn, you just know your Old Testament.
The seventh circle is the realm of violent situated within the city of these nuts. All right.
I know Nayu is in the ninth, bro, next to Judas, bro.
Yeah, treachery. That's where you go. Like when you brought up the thing last week, I was thinking to my head, like, bro, he's right. Like, lying to your brother like that that actually lands you in the ninth circle, bro. That is straight treachery.
Bro. Mental.
That was
go on, dGon, bro. Sorry.
I do think that, like, with the green card situation coming up for LYON, it is interesting. Do you get more out of importing a top laner, or do you get more out of getting a playmaking roaming support? It's an interesting topic because it wasn't a possibility coming into the split that we all knew publicly. Dokla is such a good North American top lane story, like a local story. He's been overlooked so many times in his career, and yet again, after proving it, getting the solo kill on Bin, all this, talk and getting his spot in, it just feels disappointing that he has to go through it weighing over him yet again. This isn't like okay, we're signing X top laner, you're out. It could be, or it could be Isles. The two guys end up just like not talking. Like, it creates discourse between the squad. Same thing with Isles. Like, Isles coming over from Osh and just hanging around for the longest time in NA and just being good and having potential. These are two guys that have worked hard for their spot, in my opinion, and now. Yeah, like, I don't know what the deciding factor is. Is it like, because in my head, it's easier to get a top laner that you can play through and another win condition than it is to enable your bot laner more. And I don't know. What would you consider?
I think it's just availability, no? Like, maybe they get two supports from KT, just get Polo and Ghost.
Look,
did you hear that, dGon?
I don't know.
I heard it. Don't worry. When my king talks about my president, I will not miss it.
I don't know how far you want to actually dive on it, because it is technically and everything's on fire.
We got time.
So I think the actual. I mean, first off, I just want to say, like, Tokla's just Sisyphus, the top laner, maybe. Seems as we're on the mythological one today. But if you look down the top lane pool, like, individually, a lot of the top laners in the LEC and the LCS are not, like, bad for LCS standards. Like, there's not really a top laner in the league, mechanically or any other metric that you want to go by, that is particularly, like, over the top bad. Like, you look at them and you go, oh man, this guy fucking stinks.
No.
They're all liable to having bad games, right? But the top lane pool is one where maybe Impact is the only one who maybe falls out of that like category ish these days. Sorry, Go. But otherwise, it's fine. Whereas I feel like right now, there's just so much that you can get out of having a flexible support, and a support maybe that doesn't need to be microed as much, and a support that maybe has, stronger 2v2 intuition, that understands where they need to be on the map a little bit sooner. That's where my head's at. I feel like the fact of the matter is you also just have a Korean bot laner. The import is likely going to come from Korea. I think it lines up a bit more that if one of them were to be smited, it ends up being Isles. Because I feel like using it on the top lane pool doesn't make sense if Dokla can kind of just hang with the rest of the league anyway. And that's not to say that Isles can't hang with the rest of the league, but it's just more where the meta is at and where the meta traditionally is. It's very rare it goes topside. And that for me is the big deciding factor.
Yamada, I want you to weigh in too here, because this is an interesting topic we've stumbled upon. But Yamada already made the joke. The support pool in Korea is lacking, and maybe that doesn't matter because you're going to NA, so it's like currency conversion. It's like you might have not been good in LCK, but you're all pro, first team all pro in LCS. Like maybe that is the key for President Palu or Ghost, who was most recently playing in the Americas anyways.
I don't want to cut in front of Yamato for too long here, but even if you think about it, like, bro, there are probably some Korean imports chilling in the ERLs that are mechanically just probably not that bad.
It was Wei. Wei was the one.
Wei was the guy.
Wei's
exactly.
over in
That's
LEC.
What I'm saying. Wei's in the LEC now. So, like, even doing that, like, there might be something to yield from, like, the TCL. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know the TCL rosters off the top of my head, but, like, you could even maybe take that angle instead of going directly to Korea if you really want to.
What if they just buy Thanatos? They just, like...
Well, okay, so chat threw out a really good name who just recently announced he was taking a short break for his mental health because he was surrounded by a member of the 9th Ring of Hell. You got 369 show up into the top lane, and hey, we got an international roster, baby. This is prime for Worlds.
Yo.
This is Fugazi, bro. He would never lose top esports. This is it's crazy talk. I don't know, it's the market. The market tells a tale, Like C9 is rough on cash. Maybe they want to sell Thanatos. LYON has a lot of money. Get a cheeky 500k in the pocket and cannibalize the superstar of the enemy team. No, I think it's just a question of, like, I am not well versed enough to know if there's someone in LCKCL that's available or anything like this. For me, it's too hard to say. It's just kind of,
we need to summon Chronicler.
The timing is kind of suspicious, because if it was like tied to green card, then I'm thinking it's like, yo, you managed to like piece together a green card magically like that in these times, and Zamudo just couldn't even enter the country. Like, I don't know what's happening, Like,
that's a great point.
Maybe the visa guy in the back office is like doing secret GMing, Like, the lawyer of the team.
It really makes me think. Like, do you remember the story about how Kadril like put on one of his visa applications? I think it was, I can't remember what country it was, but it was like he put that he was like a 3-year-old Pakistani girl or something. Like, they always ask like dumb questions on some of these, and that's what surely that's what's going on with Zamudo at this point. Like, the guy is there constantly, man. But yeah, sorry, just like thoughts sprung to mind.
And I was thinking, if they announce it now, like they did, because it does feel a little interesting, suspicious, maybe they are looking to try and make the move now. It is a 2026 move, not a 2027 move. However, looking at the roster, Dokla, Inspired, and Isles are under contract through 2027. It's Saint and Berserker that are the 2026 guys. So if you move your residency to NA, and this is the team that is giving you the shot for Berserker and Saint respectively, I can see them being like, all right, show me who you're signing for 2027, and then I'll resign. I can see that. I can see that happening and becoming the way in the future. But you're wait to see what the market provides here, Yamato?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Are you just your final thought? Is it replace the top or is it replace the port?
Honestly, I think it's just market should say. I think support is the obvious one to me. I have never rated IOs. I think the work is too tough. Maybe this is just a weapon that Inspired's going to use. You know, it's like, what are you doing? I will bench you. And now he can, you know? Like, I don't know why it sounded like Borat there for a little bit, but, you know, like, it's 1 a.m. I'm trying my best.
I woke up at 6:30. I'm doing my best as well. Great job, team.
Nice.
Oh man. All right. That's it for our teams on fire. Who else do you think is on fire? Which of these squads do you think are in the worst position? Let us know in the comments below. Now, before we dive into the surprising week 1 and 2 for our squads and who we think has the best shot of holding position to make it to MSI, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Raycon, because this message is sponsored by Raycon. Now, with Mother's Day coming up, it's a great time to find a gift that actually fits into your mom's everyday life. Whether she's going for a walk, running errands, or talking on the phone, Raycon's essential open earbuds are a great option. Because they're open ear, she can listen to music or podcasts while she's still hearing what's happening around her. The sound stays clear and balanced without feeling closed off from her surroundings, keeping her safe and aware. It's a thoughtful Mother's Day gift, and honestly, it's a great pickup if you want a pair for yourself as well. As you can see, Jamada holding that one up. Now, it's a great time to get it because it's also 15% off. Now, regular earbuds block everything out. You can't hear someone calling your name, a car honking, anything like that. But these Raycons sit outside your ear canal so you can get a really clear sound, but you can also actually hear what's happening around you. And the awareness is perfect for tackling your fitness resolutions safely. They're really light. The ear hook part rotates so they actually stay in. Jamada, how's it been for you testing those bad boys out?
You know what? I was a little bit skeptical at first because I'd never tried a set of headphones like this. But so far, I've been loving them. I've used them working out. Good to be able to like have that awareness, like you're calling out, but also just out and about and traveling. Yeah, I don't lose any sense of sound. The quality is great. I've been loving these things so far. These are probably now my new day-to-day headphones. I'm not gonna lie.
Boom. There you have it. He is one of the 3 million customers and counting that love the sound quality, which is just as good as the expensive brands. They're half the price because they're not overpaying for all the other retail markup stuff. And if you don't like them, they've got a 30-day guarantee. So celebrate moms in your life for Mother's Day or for any day. Go to buyraycon.com/PowerSpikeOpen to get 15% off the essential open earbuds. That's buyraycon.com/PowerSpikeOpen to get 15% off. Thanks to our friends for sponsoring over at Raycon. Thank you very, very much. All right. Let's dive into the surprise teams that had wins this past couple of weeks. It's time for a little high key, low key, and no key. For the teams that will be the MSI surprisers, will it be KT, Cloud9, Vitality, or Los Gigantes? So high key is they're going to hold their spot and make it to MSI. Low key means they're kind of fraudulent. They're not going to be able to make it to first stand. Let's get into it. All right. So let's start with Cloud9. And actually, you know what? No. The way we're going to do this is we're going to go Jamada. You're going to give us your list. High key, low key, no key. There's 4 teams, 3 slots to put them in. One of the slots will have 2 teams in there. But and it is a little harder. We do have 2 European squads in this, but Vitality and Los Gigantes have been surprising, and Vitality versus Na'Vi was our match that we were watching for last week, which went the way of Vitality. So,
who the hell is Los Gigantes, bro?
GiantX, bro. GiantX.
GiantX. Jesus
man.
Christ.
GiantX.
That
Lo
reminds me
sigan
of,
der
like,
bekommen.
did you guys see that Mike Tyson clip where there's a UFC fighter that calls John Jones John Africa,
John.
and Mike Tyson is like, "Who the hell is John Africa?" And I don't know why they brought that up. please, Jamada, continue. I'm sorry.
I had to go look at who the hell is John Africa.
Yeah.
All right.
Yamato's losing it, man.
Yamato.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Back on track. Back on track. My high key, you know what? Maybe a bit out there, especially because I think I don't think this is out there at all. I'm high key on Vitality. I'm high key on Vitality for the second slot at MSI.
Wow.
I'm gonna just keep it real. I'm gonna use a lot of the same arguments I've said about Vitality very, very recently on this show, which is they are their own worst enemy. I think this team is as good as they want to be. And that's kind of it. Like, the only thing holding them back is discipline, bro. I'm gonna keep it real. This team are freaky. Lintus is playing incredibly well game to game, both mechanically, the decisions he's making, pathing. Humanoid is now, back to being one of the strongest laners in the league, and I think he's kind of starting to reinstate his name as a real serious contender. In like the mid lane discussions for just being a top 3, like at the floor, like worst case mid. I think he's starting to go in that direction finally. And obviously it's been a long time. Fleshy is very, very explosive and exciting. Kazi is Kazi, and Naknako is the best fucking top laner in Europe, and it's not close. It's not close. I'm sorry, it's not. This guy is eating everyone for breakfast, lane by lane, game by game, series by series. It's getting a bit worrying. Like we're already having the discussions about getting this guy to an international. Like even if it's just him, like fuck it, like just Phil. I just want to see him lane against Bin. That's where we're at right now. This Vitality team has some serious sauce, and to cite, I can't remember who. I think it was Dagda reference that he said this team has mojo. Shout out Munchables, who's the real king of mojo. This is the mojo team of the LEC right now. And I think, in contrary, and I'm just gonna kind of expose him out now. My Noki is GiantX. They ain't going to no fucking. They're not going fucking MSI.
How did they end up on the segment, bro?
You know what I'm saying? Like this is a real like. Yo, thank you for letting this one slide, bro. Like, thank you for letting us get this free Noki. Vitality's 3-1 is super real. They have played some strong contenders in this run-up of their 4 series so far. And they could easily be 4-0. They could have beat KC. Like, they lost that series themselves. This could be a team that is 4-0 right now in the LEC. But the only reason they're not is, again, because their biggest fault is the lack of belt from coming from the top part of the infrastructure of Vitality. Both for my my former teacher in Pad, right, and some of his drafts in individual games, and then from Pad to the players, right. So yeah, I can't really glaze this Vitality team enough. They're incredibly exciting to watch. They've got some serious sauce. I hope they make it to MSI. I think simply because they will, in almost every universe, be fun to watch. I think even if they go to MSI and they're playing against, Gen.G or BLG or whatever, and they're struggling, they're going to go out swinging. You know it. Like, you know that they're not going to just get bitched on like some of these other teams from the West when they go and play against the LCK or the LPL. I think they will go out fighting to the fucking very end. So for me, I'm high key on Vitality, and I'm very, very low key, no key on GiantX. They 2-1'd a very horrible looking Fnatic. They made Fnatic look like they could maybe take a series off them. They went 2-1 versus Heretics. They gave a game to Heretics, and their only 2-0 is against SK. This is like the most fraudulent run of 3 games of all time. We've done it again. There was a time recently where GiantX started the split really strong, and it was just like there's like that one meme where there's like this buff guy and he's got a big jacket on, but then it's like underneath the jacket is just like a bunch of fucking foam or some shit. This is what this 3-0 is. This is what this 3-0 is. I'm not gonna be sold some lie from the community that this GX team is good. I'm sorry. And they even self-doomed themselves today on Twitter. They posted a picture of Piccolo from a very specific point in Dragon Ball Z, where after that brother was useless in the storyline. I think they just self-reported their own impending doom very, very soon. So yeah, anyway, GiantX, there's nothing even analytical to say about this team. They're just not gonna make it. They won't. I'm sorry. Like, Jackie still has the same issues he's got. He will get exposed by one shot out of the first 40 minutes of the game. And when I say that, that doesn't mean he's good at laning either. Want to make that clear. Might have had a strong start to it this split. If you like look at the numbers, sure. But I don't have faith in this team to hold a candle to the rest of the traditional top part of the LEC. And next week, is it next week? Or it might be the week after.
Next week he has shifters, and then the week after they've got two yellow teams and Vitality
their schedule,
and Navi.
Can you? So they play shifters, then Navi, then Vitality.
Yeah.
So then that means they will quite literally have G2, Koi, and KC left, right?
Yeah, for the roadshow. Correct.
So you're telling me that they haven't played a single traditional top half of the team and they've snuck their way onto this segment?
I'm telling you, they could be 5-1 going into the final week. They've got 2 weeks off. Week 5 and week 6, they don't play. They can come up with specific game plans against MKOI G2.
I'm telling you, there will be 4-2 by the time that they hit that streak there. And then there will be 4-5 by the end of the split. If I've done the math right. That's what's going to happen.
Okay. All right.
That's what's going to happen. My low keys.
They're both low keys?
No.
Oh.
Vitality is high key. GiantX is no key.
Yeah.
Now my low keys. My can see them going to MSI. If KT keep on playing like this, and this is, kind of return to back end of last year KT, even though, enough of the parts have changed that it's not really the same KT, then we could be in for a good ride. We could be in for a good ride again. The real question just kind of simply remains if the other top teams in the LCK kind of stabilize, right? Whether we actually whether we actually end up seeing stabilization out of teams like HLE, teams like the T1 to a point. But I think the thing is they just have such a steep road and so much like resistance to play up against that I think it will be difficult, but I think that it's possible. And at the end of the day, they've got a strong start to the split, right? They've gone 2-0, but it's a long split in the LCK, right?
Yep.
So strong start, sure, but it's really about for me with them, the rest of the field more than them themselves, right? Which might be a weird angle to take, just simply because I think it's easy to make the exact same argument I've made if you just flip who's on what side. But for me, the top half, the traditional top half of the LCK is just ridiculously stacked, right? And I think the big kind of up in the air team for a lot of us still is HLE, and whether or not this team is actually capable of functioning. Winner split was a very small sample size. So far, the sample size that we've gotten was a very apprehensive victory against Pro and a bit of a belting from T1. So it's like, what can you really say about this Harmar Life team right now? The DK series, I think, will be a lot more tell-all this week as a whole, right? Because I think it's so, we're swinging from one fire, like kind of into a blizzard, where it's like, okay, DK could be a very hard series for them to run into and tackle. Whereas their next series is a BFX who just look a lot more distraught and disjointed compared to where they just were. So that's my first low key, and then my other low key is actually C9. Normally I would be pretty big on them, but I do wonder whether this whole mechanical like their hands don't look as good in these small 10-second sequences where they have to have good mechanics to outplay a fight or outplay a skirmish, is going to catch up to them with the rest of the teams in the league, because now we actually have a lengthy split, right? So now I look at a team like FlyQuest and I think to myself, okay, how much can this team improve now that they're playing consistent stage games over the course of the next 2 months, right? Can TL fix their issues and actually look like the strong team that everyone says that these guys apparently are in scrims, you know? I think in this weird way, there are teams that could actually have ceilings that very easily surpass a floor day performance C9. And that's kind of my big concern when I look at them. And why I want to low-key them, because it would be the most C9 thing of all time to give up like an expected international appearance. That has just become their character. That is who they are as a team. They are the habitual like disappointers. This is where we're at. We can love them up until the stakes are there, and that's for me where immediately I get apprehensive about C9. So with it being MSI on the line, I'm low-key. I think that there are strong arguments when you look across the top half expected teams that they could improve a reasonable amount. And in a best of 5, where C9 are under pressure, they lose a series they shouldn't lose.
They've changed it, because before they were the team that would make it to internationals. They were the hope of NA. They would break through and then disappoint somewhere along the way. But yeah, there's been a little bit less securing those international events on demand here for Cloud9. Yamato, what do you make of Jamada's I guess stack here of high key, low key, no key, and then you can give us yours.
I think you just gotta compare it to the field. The competition here is a very crucial detail. I think my first low key is going to be KT. It's just that a world where I don't think they could have, like, in terms of just isolating a week 1, I don't think you could have done anything more to get you like into the conversation of getting to MSI more. Like this is just the nature of it being week 1. And if I want to imagine at the end of the split a world where they manage to beat T1 or beat Gen.G, because that's the competition, even though it just happened with BFX, right? It's hard for me to imagine that happening again so soon. But a low key, they deserve, because the week 1 was as good as you can ask. Still, like, am I gonna be surprised if Perfect and Effort don't play well next week? I'm gonna be like, okay, I got fooled by 1 week, fool me once, fool me twice type shit, But if they continue, God bless them. Maybe something can work out of it. But just the competition is very, very tough. And I did the same thing for Vitality. I would put Vitality in low key too. I think that low Vitality is very exciting. But at the end of the days, in the end of all of this, they need to win BO5s. And there's a lot of things that I want them to iron out and show consistency in, which they can do in the best of 3s. But I don't see a world where Pad isn't going to run it down or the players are going to throw leads. I think they're on a very, very good path. I think they look better than ever. I think that Naknaka looks fantastic. And I think that Linsas and Fleshy are playing some of the best league they've played ever, which is a very, very positive thing. But they need to beat KC, Koi, G2, the usual suspects. These are teams that have so much BO5 experience under their belt already. And I do think that is going to be something that matters, especially in terms of just team cohesion and going through metas that shift, because patches are going to come throughout the next weeks. And my high key is going to be C9, not because I'm excited about C9. It's like I love Dom. I think Dom, I get pissed off when C9 play like shit. I feel like, they asked my boy to come and coach there, they should play until their fingers bleed to actually pay back what Dom has sacrificed to be a part of the squad, because they asked him to come. So whenever they're playing bad, it pisses me off more than any other team in the world, because obviously Dom is our boy, I think that they have a lot of flaws. I think the LYON win doesn't change my opinion of that. But they are very, very blessed with how bad Team Liquid and FlyQuest is. That's a massive, massive blessing. I think that Griffin is a very, very overhyped prospect. I'm sad to say it, but he doesn't have the skill set right now. I think the bot lane of FlyQuest is good, but I think that their top lane, like their solo laners, are a little bit too vanilla, in a team. Like, I think it works in a world where you have Whip-On inspired because they're going to bring, as you call it, Jamada the sauce, but where's the sauce, on the team? I think that Masu and Cryogen have some good lane phases, but other than that, if you know how to play the macro game, I think you can always bleed these guys dry, and this is something that we saw in winter, and I don't think they have enough time to figure it out. But shout out to the coach, think hard, maybe he can piece it together, he's a wizard. And then Team Liquid, honestly, Team Liquid, bro, like I in the off season, right? I want everybody to remember like how contested Quid was. KC wanted Quid. Every NA team wanted Quid. Quid was very exciting after the 100 Thieves run, and we've seen very high peaks of Quid. Where the hell has Quid been this year? He's just been completely invisible. The bot lane of CoJJ and LYON, they are supposed to be running this league when it comes to how they play in bot lane. Morgan, Renekton. All right. That's what's up. That's Morgan. I don't see Morgan for more. I'm going to be honest. I never rated Morgan. Like, I am embarrassed to share a title with him, Like, we're both lords.
Man.
No, but he's just chilling. The best, but then the question in that off season, right, was, they couldn't get River. They couldn't cancel his military service. They couldn't get inspired. Those were the rumors we heard. And then they got Jose Diodo. I was like, okay, Jose Diodo, I've seen him play, he's fine. But now it turns out he's the best damn player on this damn team. He's kicking people in the head, and he's carrying the early games, and he's smurfing, and his teammates are just not delivering. And as long as that's the case, because it's just been a continuation from winter to spring, I don't think that there's anyone, really, really snapping at the heels of C9. So they're going to get away with their shit. That's why I put them on the high key. Because at the end of the day, C9 is still... They're all right, they're all right. They're solid. And who was the final team? GX? But they're no key, bro. Let's see you later, bro. Like, GX, you're the gatekeepers, Like, you are the gatekeepers. You are around. Like, if we are making a pickup soccer team, you get picked maybe like fourth to be to be a goalie, And that's respectable. We need a good goalie. But you're not scoring any goals, You're not doing anything rememberable, You're just we are going to remember you as a good sport. And once again, the tough part for them is the field is too difficult. And I think that Jackies needs to have like the split of his life in order for them to break through, because I don't see a world where Isma is ever going to change his identity, because he's been the same player every damn game I've seen him play. Strong early game, and then let's hope he remembers his head and doesn't leave it at the fountain, because he will just run in and die. And that will happen, that will just happen. And I think GX just have the top four is too tough to crack. And now with Vitality also being good, good luck. Turns out Fnatic also beat G2, so who knows, GX have a lot of work out cut for them. So if they get to make it to MSI, bro, like me and Jamada, we will shave our heads.
Boom.
Oui?
Tu
parles français?
Yeah,
Tu parles français? Oui,
the bet has been made. The bet has been made.
Jamada are gonna shave their heads, bro.
Okay, that's not all right, my lord. My lord, doth thee go a bit too far? Thou dost jest, right? I like that. Maybe
this is what the people desire.
I'm gonna do this a little bit. Maybe I should have done high key, low key, no key. Who was the more fraudulent, undefeated squad? GX, Nongshim, or Shopify Rebellion, or Disguised, or someone else from that probably.
They just cut the break and re-record it.
Yeah. Gave you guys the easy out. But yeah, I like that the little switch up of the KT thing. The only thing I would say there, Yamato, is KT beat T1 and Gen.G. Like that to me is why that one is a little bit more impressive and why that one carries a little bit more weight to
It's juicy, yeah.
the way of Jamada's list. But let us know at home what you think. Which team do you think is more in the high key to the low key? And am I the only crazy one that thinks Los Gigantes will be a team of momentum going into their Hell Week against
what? They won't.
G2 and MKOI?
I'll put something on the line just for the sake of putting something on the line. I'll shave my beard if they do it.
Ooh.
This thing is a part of my brand. This thing is a part of my identity. I'll do it. I'll shave my beard off if they make it to MSI.
I don't know, man. Last time that we saw James Harden with no beard, it's not good. It's not.
It's
good.
cool. What I've got under here is chill. I'm all right. I'm fine with it.
So what is the bet? Because I will shave my beard, which isn't much, but it does make me look like a baby.
See,
if I have
you're
no
lucky.
facial hair.
You're lucky. You have something very important coming up, which means you have to maintain your looks, dGon. This is the thing.
Yeah.
I think the timing is a bit too tight.
My wedding is coming up, so I can't do the hair.
Giants are not fucking making it.
They're not making it, bro. Like this is a safe bet. Like, bro, if they make
and you're like, I can bet my beard. He says, I'm cool. I look fine without the beard.
Yeah, man,
bro. That's why I put all of our hair on the line. Your hair, my hair, dGon's hair. We're gonna be just fucking three testicles doing power spike, reviewing GX.
That's the name of the new show. 3 testicles. Yeah. Welcome to 3 testicles. Isn't GX the greatest? You know what? I'm down. I'm down. I volunteered Jamada's hair too.
Whoa!
We'll shave our heads.
If GX, yes. If GX make it to internationals, or to MSI, which is again that does sound crazy. We will shave our heads after our weddings, and I will invite GX to my wedding. Because it is in Korea and they will be here. And, Gihoto was part of the old esports esports soccer in LA. So, I have the connection there. I could just be like, hey, brother, come, please. Will you at home, are you worried about our 3 Testicles podcast bet? Let us know in the comments below if you think Los Gigantes can do it. But I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? You guys just dismissed it right away. It makes me interested to see if it is possible. All right. Now oh yeah. Where did we get that, baby? Way to go. Light W in the chat, everybody. Yes. I like it, dude. Pull it up.
Pull the stream up.
Bro, you look fucking clean.
I know.
Bro, shave the beard right now. What are you doing, bro? You're hiding this fucking beauty, bro.
I will say, it does look like you went from, averaging 30 points to a game to averaging 10 assists a game.
Fair enough.
You were good for 30 and 5. Now you're good for like 10 and 10. 10 and 12.
Bro, one question though, Jamada. When's the last time you've seen yourself without a beard,
18. So 9 years now.
Bro, the dangerous thing is when you shave it up and you realize you've gained weight. That's.
I have. No.
That's the danger,
I was young and slim, man. I'm like, since then, I think I'm 20 kilos up almost. Like it's,
But the beards, they do heavy lifting, Like
they
do.
You
shave one day and you're like, damn, I got a triple chin.
Yamato, that sounds like it's coming from experience, brother.
Yes, bro. Are you kidding me, bro? Of course it does.
The triple chin? Oh no.
I'm fucking bro, Ben and Jerry. Why does it have to be so delicious?
That's true. Fuck. I gave up, Never mind. Actually, you know how to say it. I know. For the Lenten season, the 40 days before Easter, I guess running up to Easter, you usually give something up. You can give something up for the Catholic faith. And I gave up soda, chocolate, and candy. And these because Easter was last week, last Sunday. It's only been a couple days, but I have eaten so much chocolate ice cream, chocolate bars, candy. It has been not good. So this is like my last week before it starts hitting, because I need to get back into the gym and keep going. But it's going to hit right in the face. The triple chin is on its way. So
nice. Do you already have your tux?
No, I don't have it yet. I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting on it.
Bird.
Right. I'm gonna let this settle down and get in a week.
Measured already?
Yeah, I've been measured though. I've been measured, so I've got to keep with it. I got to keep with it.
He's locked into the weight. He can't do nothing, bro. You need to stay in the gym. You can't.
I know. I'm done. I'm weaning off of the Coke Zero and all of it. So
Coke Zero has no calories though. Like,
but
it's no calories.
It's not just it's because then the Coke Zero makes me want to eat more. Right?
That's
you
true,
end up like, oh, I had something sweet, now I want something savory, and then you just get in this ping pong cycle. Anyways,
that is true. That is true.
If you have dieting advice, let me know before my wedding, which is in two months. I've got 9 weeks. All right. Now, before we dive into our certified banger matches of the week, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Prize Picks. Now, the playoff push for hoops is heating up. Baseball season just started, and there's no better way to cash in than Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Every bucket, every dime, every win means more when you're playing on Prize Picks. So don't pass up your next shot with Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Now, it's so easy to hop on into. I was all in during football season. Very easy to transition to the hoop season. Now baseball going, I can't stop. Really, really easy to use. Now, Prize Picks is the best way to get into the action for esports in more than 50 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Choose from several titles across esports like CS, League, Call of Duty, Valorant, and more. The app is really easy to use. To create a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few pro player stats for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. Now on Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections as well from different sports. So you can combine from CS players with basketball into Valorant and many more to get the combination happening. So head on over to Prize Picks right now by downloading the app, the Prize Pick app, today, and use the code POWERSPIKE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code POWERSPIKE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks. All right, let's close off this episode with a couple of certified bangers. Huge matchups early into the season. It is the first of many certified bangers, so let's get into it. All right, let's start in the LCK. It is the big match over the last 4 years that has become probably larger than the telecom war, more exciting than the telecom war. It is T1 versus Gen.G. Both these squads having suffered a loss to KT, but they will do battle here right off the jump at the beginning of the week in the LCK. How do you guys see this one as the markets right now see it? A 67% likelihood that Gen.G is going to get the victory over T1 according to Polymarket. Let's start with you, Jamada.
Sorry, I was a bit stun-locked and I'm a child. It's also getting late. Yeah, Gen.G, always the safe horse to rely on oftentimes, right? Yes. Coming off the back of dropping the series to KT. Maybe we can just...
And first stand.
Very important. Yep, true. Yep. I think we're still in the territory of we can attribute it to a little bit of international hangover. And also it was kind of the most KT thing of all time to go 2-0 in an LCK week and the two teams be Gen.G and T1. So that's the first thing. In terms of actual certified banger, I mean, for me, I'm really looking at how T1 draft for a lot of the series. That's my big question. My big challenge to T1 is actually how they approach these games. in the draft and in kind of the prep, right? We're seeing a lot more weird things kind of come into season, into flavor. You know, a la the Anivia support, right? Is this going to show up? We've already seen Carrier play it in the game one. Now, obviously, the game that the game that the Anivia showed up in, and just that draft as a whole, was a little bit questionable, depending on who you ask, to say the least. But are we going to see that show up again? We've been seeing more Annie. They did use it to take down HLE. Is this now going to kind of be something that's a little bit more high prio? Gen.G as a whole have kind of been, I think, a bit more, how do I say? I feel like they've been kind of going back and forth in how they want to play game to game, where sometimes it's like snap engage and very lane dominant picks and trying to snowball through lane into that like kind of fast tempo gameplay. And then other times it's very, very slow pace where, you know, it's Gen.G chess. And oftentimes you're not gonna Gen.G chess or out chess Gen.G. And that's been, you know, a strategy that I think is practically synonymous with this team and how they like to play League of Legends most of the time. So that's my big question to T1, is more this draft issue and that they've had, you know, over winter. And I think to a degree has kind of bled into some aspects of some of the spring drafts so far. I think only really you could kind of put the game one against KT under the microscope and really like pick that one apart very, very correctly. But whether that consistency remains to be seen here into Gen.G and what they actually want to prio, right? Doran has been mostly one of the big critique points here of T1, and whether or not, you know, Gen.G, maybe they decide to throw a spanner in the works in this prep, and they go, you know what, screw it, let's just go and abuse Doran. Let's give Keen like really aggressive counter matchups, which again we got out of Keen in the KT series, right? Where there was the Varus pick. So Gen.G are liable to do it if the opportunity arises itself, and that's kind of my big thought here is I want to see T1 come into this series with coherent drafts that are not super punishable in these kind of vacuums that Gen.G can then use to really, really squeeze a lead out of the map, because the matchup is just incredibly one-sided. Because I think right now, no matter what you think about Gen.G dropping out first down to G2, losing their series to KT, this team is still really fucking. No matter how you slice the pie, this is for the time being, this Gen.G is incredibly, incredibly scary still. And I think the question still needs to be asked to T1 on how they can actually handle some of these aspects of their own game, more so than even Gen.G's.
You know, for me, I need to see a game where Pays does the Viper, which is Pays is the one that wins the game for T1. There's been a lot of games where he's done damage for T1, and they've you know, he does the Caitlyn, and it's like, okay, cool, he's doing damage and the team's playing around him. But to me, that game that happened earlier this week was more about Faker just playing on the side lane and holding everything together while things fell apart around the map until it stabilized. Like, Faker's been the one. So I want to see a more focused eye on Pays, especially given all the heat and pressure that's on Ruler on the opposite side. I think that's going to be such a unique matchup, and hopefully something that Team One will try to take advantage. How do you see this series going, Yamato?
I think for me, the main detail here is that Honor is not performing well. And I do think the way you expose Gen.G is by leveraging jungle support, bleeding into mid, and then having your mid laner being a central point of your success. I do think how G2 beat them and how KT beat them was Caps, BDD, and then of course Cuz, effort / in G2's case, of course, how Labrov and Skimon played. And I don't think that's T1's identity right now. I think that Faker finds timers to roam, to pressure sides, and I think that those waves that he likes to give up to gain advantages elsewhere, these are the type of ways that Chovy doesn't make. He doesn't let you forget that you gave up that wave. And I think the makeup currently of T1 is not good enough in the context of the matchup specifically. I would need to see T1 owner specifically playing a lot better than he has, because he was the most consistent force last year, in my opinion, on the team. And I do think that he needs to return to that form, because ever since the inclusion of Mata in the coaching staff, we did see owner and Carrier work together more than ever before, and that's when they were at their strongest. I do think that Carrier is in phenomenal form, so I do think if there's an angle for entry, it is through the bot lane, because Doro is underperforming, and I do think that Carrier looked really damn good in the opening. Even in the series that he lost, I thought that he played good, even though he didn't have a lot of opportunities to do much. I just feel like, the Anivia pick was just damn weird, and we've had series where Carrier has picked some bullshit and tried to get away with it, but it just didn't work. And looking at his solo queue account, my man's playing Varus and Ezreal, so who the hell knows what the hell he's cooking up, He saw that supports can now take minion waves. Maybe Paze is just... he's taking a back seat. Maybe Carrier is hijacking the bot lane.
Time to learn Senna, buddy.
Yeah, something like that, man. But I favor Gen.G. I think the poly market has judged the series appropriately at this current juncture.
Yeah, again, the big news for the meta shift. Shyvana is now available to play, and of course, more importantly, the support punishment for farming up is now gone. So you can see maybe more Senna at the support role, but Senna is going to be a higher priority, I'd imagine, going into this week. That's not the only banger that we've got in the East. Also, in the LPL, it is the former, I don't know what you call former kings of the LPL, the former flag bearers for the LPL in anyone's legends up against the current number 2 squad in the LPL, JDG. JDG had a solid game against BLG where they eventually end up falling a little short. Honkyu not having a particularly great game 3 Annie series. But overall, JDG showed up. They did not roll over against BLG and did look the part of the second best squad in the LPL up against AL. Right now, AL's favored 59% to 41% likelihood they're going to take the win, according to Polymarket. What say you, Yamato? AL or JDG?
I like those, chances for JDG. I'm surprised that they come in as such an underdog according to the markets, because I think that AL right now is quite flawed in how they play. I think that Flandre is at an all-time low in terms of his individual performance. He played against a rookie and got giga smoked by both a Gnar and a Jace in Zuyan. I think that the main angle for me is, of course, always Tarzan and Kale, and I feel like AL right now, especially without the leadership of course, Tabe, I feel like they are a little bit delusional about what their identity needs to be. Tarzan is one of the best poppies on the server, but right now you need to play a game where Tarzan is the centerpiece of your team, plain and simple. Like your carries on this team are currently not performing good enough, and if you want to grind out consistent wins in the best of threes, Tarzan needs to be the main point. And I do think that if anything, to support the AL angle, it would be that JDG is a team that stumbles over themselves more than anything. And I do think that the passivity of both Shanks and Hope can kind of play into that, because they are good at punishing, but they are not good at creating initiative. But I do think that JDG played a very good series against BLG, and I trust that Tabe has a very good read on AL, and I think that they're going to be able to win this one. Like, if I had gone to my head, I think it's going to be a close series, but I do think I'm favoring JDG.
Jamada.
I've got to say, I'm in the same boat here as Yamato, man. Like, I feel like AL have lost a lot of... We've returned back to the word again. A lot of their source. I think a lot of their source was coming from Tabe, and that clear guidance that they had. And again, just kind of game-to-game coherence in terms of drafts was, to me, the consistency of that was what made them the team that they were last year, right? Alongside their skirmishing off the back of those drafts. Even when you think about, I was very critical of the T1 draft, the game 5. It was Olaf, Twisted Fate. More so about the the fearless point, and a lot less about actually no, like that's those guys can play those champions. Yes, high bar, but like that's just kind of where they're at the time. And I feel like Yamato brings up probably the best way that you can talk about AL, which is Tarzan is just consistently for the last 15, 16 months just been in the top 3 conversation for junglers without dropping out. Like there hasn't really been a period of time where we've looked at AL, we've looked at Tarzan, and we've gone, yeah, this guy is mega underperforming to the point where we need to be worried. We've been able to say that about pieces around him, but we've not really been able to say that about Tarzan. And I think that you look at the meta in the jungle right now, beyond the Xin Zhao, the Pantheon, the traditional kind of big 4, big 5, Tarzan can play these champions. He's a trailblazer. He's a trailblazer for picks that aren't inside of the meta. We saw it last year with the Zed and how he popularized Zed, for example, inside of the pro space, right? This guy is good. He is smart. And I think right now in a meta where it's about the bot lane linking up with jungle, or more specifically the support linking up with jungle, I don't think there has actually been for a long time a better time than now to have a proactive jungler who is flexible, which is exactly what Tarzan is. So I think they need to set up more for him to make sure that can come to fruition. Otherwise, JDG will eat them alive. Like this team continues to just impress for me. I'm glad I hopped on the train early doors this year, because they've just been exciting. Like Tave, I don't know what it is. This guy just knows what makes teams tick. He seems to walk into a room, understand what strengths these players have, and go, all right, this is what we're going to do. And his plan has worked very consistently for the last 3 or 4 years now. Almost every project he's walked into has just considerably and by a large margin improved. And so I am leaning into JDG a little bit more. I'm surprised that it's not a little bit closer to 50-50, to be honest with you, here on the market. I would have had it maybe soft leaning for JDG, to be honest with you, in between a 55 to 60. So it basically flipped. I feel like this JDG team, game to game, they're just gonna look at what AL are drafting and they're gonna answer it, and it's gonna be weird stuff that AL just aren't really ready for. Do you know what I mean? Like On is gonna do some Vampire's gonna start doing some bullshit where he's just like, maybe he wants to pull out the pick that was on my mind, which is why I brought up On, because he's the other guy that does it, right? But they're gonna look towards picks like this. They're gonna look towards pulling out weird stuff. So to me, AL need to be prepped and ready for this, and they need to have a plan. And I think it needs to be centered around Tarzan. Otherwise, I don't see this being easy pickings for JDG. For AL rather. I think this is an AL series that they go into as underdogs in my mind.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. In the most recent history, it's a 2-1 lead this year for JDG over anyone's Legends. 2 wins and 1 loss for Tabe against his former team. And as Yamato said, great knowledge of how this squad operates and ticks. And JDG will try to get back to their winning ways. Those are 2 certified bangers of the week. We'll have that coverage of those matches and all of the week's matches, because there are great games all over the place. You said it earlier, as the D+ and Hanwha Life Esports over in the LCK to kick off the week. Very, very front-loaded week with these matches. We'll have that covered. That's our episode of Power Spike, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know who your dark horses are to make it to MSI, what you think is going to be the big talking point coming into this week for Gen.G and T1. Make sure to follow the gents Yamato and Jamada for this week, for all the streams, co-streams, and contents pushing out. What do you have otherwise scheduled, Yamato? Down just cut out. Give me a second.
Somebody cut out?
I think he's cut out and he can't hear us. So you go.
All right, go ahead.
Oh.
All right, go ahead.
I have a Riftbound, the regional qualifier coming up in Lille. So I want to qualify to Riftbound Worlds. So that's what I'm working on. A little.
Did you decide what deck you're doing?
Are we going to have coverage of it? More importantly, as well.
Yeah, bro. It's gonna be streamed. I'm gonna do some updates too. I'm either playing Kaiser or I'm playing Draven. So that's where I'm at right now. Kaiser I have a lot of experience with. I played in set 1-2, so might be a little cooked there. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Hopefully, I'll do good. In live play, what I notice, I'm not the best Rift 1 player because I didn't play too long or too much, but I noticed a lot of people are just choking, and I don't choke, so it's
Oh,
I see
he
people
doesn't
I see
choke.
people shaking. People are shaking the way they are exhausting their runes. So I'm in the pocket.
17th through 19th. So we'll get one more episode of Power Spike before you go.
Sir, I'll do a little pre-tournament, a summoner skirmish in Bielefeld ahead of time. So if you see me there, say hello. Otherwise, you're gonna get wrecked. It's life.
Jamada. What you got?
Yeah, I'm back from my break this weekend. I'm losing my partner. She goes back to the States in a few days' time. So co-streams for the LCS, a little bit of CBLOL coverage as well. I need to check the games because admittedly my head's been a little bit out of it. But back on the co-streams, trying to pull up some CBLOL hype, man, because this region is incredibly fun to watch. I'm learning. I know we don't talk about it much here on Power Spike, but just on a mechanical level, these guys are just fist fighting perma. Like, it's baby LPL. If you need something to watch in that time slot, like if maybe the LEC games aren't doing it for you, guys, tap in. Like, I'm telling you, this is like entertainment deluxe. Like, you need to pull up to the CBLOL broadcast or the co-stream. So that's what I'll be up to this weekend.
All right. Boom. There you have it. I'll be at LCK Wednesday, off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for all the bangers. If you come by the way, I accept Riftbound packs. We just can't get them in Korea. So, would love that if you're able to get it somewhere else.
Some exchanges can occur, like dGon gets a Riftbound pack or 3, and you get tickets to the LCK for a year. Like
no.
Honestly,
I was just saying.
Yo, dGon, side note, bro. How's your golf swing? Has it improved?
It's going great.
Yeah,
really going great. But my wrist is a little hurt, so I've been taking a little bit of time off. But I bought a new driver. Any golf players on the channel bought a new driver? How's yours, man? Yamato and I went golfing, and then he got the bug. I'm
addicted, bro. I haven't played since, but I'm still addicted. Like I'm gonna get a metal chip. Like 6 months, no golfing soon. It's rough out here, bro. I just have like a very snobby club where I live, and it's a very, very costly measure to participate. So it's a big commitment, because I need to buy clubs and all that shit. But I just want to go out on a range, and shoot balls. But they need you to do the whole spiel. So sadly, I'm gonna be ballless.
Just talk to him. Just talk to him. Like, people like bringing in new golfers. Maybe you can be like, hey, is there a way, rent a club or something like that? And they'll get you in there. All right. While we try to figure out how Yamato can stop being ballless, we're going to close the episode there. Maybe you have ideas at home. Bye-bye, everyone.